What's up, everybody? Price, D. Willie Ashford, Black Culture Podcast, back for another episode. This is a topic that we actually haven't gotten to. We did talk about, what was that topic? Oh, why men stop dating, Willie? Is that the one?
Why men don't approach women?
That one was hot, and we were going to jump into another topic, but we got a great idea from our guest today, Miss Erica Nichole.
First off, welcome to the show. What's up? I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to leave my opinion on the world. I think that I provide a unique perspective, and I'm not afraid to step out and stand on what it is that I firmly believe in, because I know it's a lot of people who feel me. And I'm excited about tonight's topic, and I'm excited to dig in. So let's get to it.
All right, let's go. So internet has been going crazy on this whole dating trend, and why do men and women cheat, and men don't need women and women don't need all this back and forth, etc. And we're speaking specifically about the Black community because it's the Black Culture Podcast. But tonight we're going to talk about how to keep the relationship fresh, which I thought was a very interesting topic, specifically because nobody's really talking about it. And two, I think it's just something to help benefit our culture and almost every other culture, because that's something that's really difficult to do. Willie's married, so I definitely want him to chime in on this.
How long, Willie, have you been married?
9 years.
Okay.
Why the number keep changing,
lovely
bro?
Years.
The numbers, well, I hope it changes every year.
Well, that's because I got the number right, because she's next to me. So she's in the next right next to me. So I'll make sure I got the number right.
All right, I feel it. Well, let's go ahead and dig into it. You've been married.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is for you, E. So just a typical scenario. Say somebody's getting married, and usually when you get married, you're on a high, right? Honeymoon phase. But at some point, being around somebody, you get used to each other, the typical flow of the day, the year, et cetera, et cetera. And I always said this, and Willie, help me out, since you've been married for nine years, right? The things you do when you're dating, the 80% turns into the 20% after you get married and have kids, because your set of responsibilities are different. So how do you keep it fresh after you've been in a relationship for a while, live together, separate jobs, flow of life gets in the way? How do you keep that fresh?
So it's funny. We talked about this. My wife and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, TV will have you thinking like marriage, everyday life is just peaches and roses, and it really does get real. And you, let's be honest, you with the same person every day. You're laying down with the same person every day. You get to know that person. You do get tired of each other. You do have to do things to keep it interesting. It's not a bad thing. Once you get to know somebody, you're with them every day. You learn their habits. You learn more about them. It does happen. You have to do stuff. And it becomes routine. And if you're not careful, that routine could be negative towards the marriage, because you could just be there's a thing where people say get comfortable. You do get comfortable. The things you did to build up to get to that relationship, to get that woman, to get that girl, to get that man, you kind of shy away from it. And then kids come in. Now, like you said, when kids come in, now you have to split that, because you have to see about them. Kids can't see for themselves. So the attention that you were giving each other, the date nights, the movie nights, the just hanging out and talking, those become very little, because now you have to switch those plans to tend to the kids. So now if you're not careful, you have to find ways to implement time to each other. Time to each other is very important. I think just the word time, even if you just somewhere sitting in the car talking, the time, that time is important. And kids change it a lot, trust me, definitely when they're babies, when they're not old enough to do for themselves. So I learned a lot. We've learned a lot. You learn a lot. When you get married, the same person you are when you get married, you're not gonna be that same person when a week. Really, like you just evolve. You keep evolving. So you learn how to love that person. You still learn more, 9 times out of 10 when you get married, you're learning yourself. So now you're learning more about yourself, also learning more about your spouse. So it's a lot to maintain, but you can do it. Marriage, to me, marriage is what you make it. If you communicate, if you talk to each other, if you listen to each other, and if you make sure you're still getting that time in, marriage is a great thing.
Oh, man. Erica, how do you keep the relationship fresh?
Well, I've never been married yet. And so I can't answer this from a marriage perspective, even though I know you didn't ask me, but I'm just putting it out there so people don't think that what I say, even though it may counter a little bit of what your awesome co-host says, maybe. But when I think about the question, how do I keep a relationship fresh? I just want to nix the fresh part. And I just want to focus on how do you keep the relationship? I think that holds a little bit more power than being concerned about how do you keep it fresh. I have had the pleasure of being underneath the examples of couples who's been married, over 10 years, over 20 years, over 30 years. And one thing they don't spend a lot of time on is this freshness, right? Or this newness, so to say. But they spend time on really harboring what is there. And, I find it interesting. So you said something earlier when you were introducing this whole podcast about how, the topics, like the things that you see on the internet and, the topics like why do people cheat and, why don't guys approach a girl anymore and all of this stuff. And it's like, I'm mind boggled because whoever fits under that criteria really isn't anyone that I feel like could really offer any sound strategic advice to someone like myself, because I feel like it's a character flaw. I don't really care about what excuse a person may give me as to why they cheated, because there's a million people out here who don't cheat, even if their counterpart, is completely out of line, has cheated on them. They're still so solid in themselves that they're not going to repeat that same action, that the person who wasn't solid did for them. And so bringing this back full circle, how to keep the relationship. I think about my relationships with my friends. We don't do anything to reinvent our relationships as the years progress and as we evolve. We just continuously have a mutual respect. I think one thing that's super strong is that we actually spend time getting to know each other. And I think a lot of relationships and a lot of couples miss that. They miss vetting the vagina, so to say. I think a lot of men should be more, I think they should keep their jewels a little tighter than the way they give it away, especially in these days when you guys don't have to work for it like you had to do in the 90s or the 80s.
Let's back up for 1 second, because you said something that I never thought about, and that is reinventing the relationship. And I think about certain celebrities who like reinvent their image, or if you go through something, you kind of reinvent this whole facade of who you are, how you view yourself as a person. How would one reinvent their relationship? Because I think that's kind of a cool concept, but I've never heard of it. So can you explain that a little more?
I think that what that looks like is going to vary for the individual, but it's what I think the common denominator is Sorry, y'all. It's, this electronic stuff. So I'm just dinged on the computer. But I think it's literally about communication, raw, strong, to the point. And to really, really, really be intentional when it comes to the other person. I think people start losing their stride when it starts to become an individual thing instead of an we kind of thing. We can't reinvent us if you're focused on you. We can't reinvent us if I'm focused on me, what I didn't get. But if our goal is always the other person, we're both always winning. So it varies. I don't know. Will and his wife may decide that they're reinventing the relationship is changing the way that it's been, because maybe the way the first 5 years they were both in college. So the way they had to coexist was on a different level because of where they were in their life. But now maybe they are college graduates. They're in their careers. They're now new parents. So you have to be purposeful, right? You got to sit down with your other person and say, whoop, we no longer can operate where we did 2 years ago because we're not those same two people. We're not even in that same space. So let's find what works for where we are at now.
You said something though, like, and a lot of people say it, right? So many people today, they do say, I need to take time to focus on myself. Like, I need to do this for me. And so when you say that, it does add out. Shout out to my wife. She actually pointed that out. She's literally listening. And she was just pointed out to me, like, you do hear that a lot of people say, you know what? I need to just take some time for me. And the easiest thing to do in a relationship is walk away. That's the easiest thing to do. But you can't, people do it, but you can't do that once you say I do, or even in life, period. Like that's like why there's so many failed relationships, because the first sign of adversity, the first sign of trouble, he's like, you know what? I don't have to deal with this. I'm leaving. And that's why you have so many failed relationships. You have so many split households because, again, TV or just life period will have you thinking that a serious relationship or marriage is just, like, listen, man, we talk about this all the time. Social media, they're never showing you the struggles. They're showing you the happy ending. They're showing you the outcome. They never show you what happened in between. They're showing you what they want you to see. But listen, like,
they're showing you their narrative.
Yeah, like marriage, you have to work for it. And that's a lot of people's reason. Like, I just need time to focus on me instead of, there is no me. You're a team. Like, you need to focus on we.
Right. The number one problem. And we're in a state right now, like we're in a season where it's all about self. Everything is about selfies, self-gratification. It's all about self. The narrative they're pushing is self. Look at how the music has changed.
The music, that influences so many, like, definitely men, the way a lot of music portrays these women. They talk about the women, and even now, like, women too in music, the way you'll have a nice song that's uplifting, like nobody's really dancing, but as soon as that song come on to shake something, do this, do that, and third, like, everybody gravitate towards that. Like, everyone gravitates towards that because.
You wanna know why?
Tell me. Yeah, I want to know why, please.
You wanna know why? Self-gratification. It's the quick fix. It looks good. It's booty shaking. It's giving me something right now. There's no brain power. You're not, back in the day when hip hop was popping off, one thing that made the lyricists so powerful was the metaphors they used in their lyrics. They became verbal assassinations because of the poetry in their songs. A lot of times you had to sit down and decipher what did he say? What was meant? What? And then when you get it, you're like, oh, because you understand. You know what I mean? But now it's not. It's self-gratification. Hit my booty, touch my da-da-da, da-da-da, end of the week about to. There's nothing left for imagination.
Nope.
It's all about self. It's
Well,
quick.
I heard a lady say, because she was a DJ, and she said the same thing. You know, if you play some positive music with a message, people don't want to hear that. She said, but the ladies run to the dance floor when you play all the obscene stuff and they know all the words. And she said, how do you expect a man to respect you after you've kind of put yourself out there and that's what you gravitate towards? But I want to segue real quick back to keeping the relationship fresh, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that need to hear this. There's a lot of people out there that are in a relationship just to be in a relationship, just because they feel like they might not want to be lonely, right? And I don't encourage that. You know, so I've seen people stay in terrible relationships just because
it's cuffing season, as they say.
It is cuffing season. So what are some specific actions that you think are good, kind of like in general, to keep things fresh, especially for people who have very busy lives, and they don't get really to see each other that much to be able to nurture their relationship?
I mean, this is easy. Like I'm exhausted, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm so over it because Google some ish. Like, think outside the box. Think small. I mean, my goodness, until you can get to a space where you can be in each other's zone. I mean, my goodness, people, write a note. Put a letter in their pocket. Spray if you work the night shift and, you know, whatever, spray the pillow with your favorite cologne. I mean, do something. We got to learn to think, man. We got to learn to think. What is your partner's love language?
That's a
You
good
know,
one.
I don't know. Like, figure it out and then do something based off of whatever their love language is. It shouldn't be hard. And I think when you stop thinking about ways to connect, ways to show this other person, you know, that I'm still here. I miss the hell out of you, but I'm still here, because we have to understand something, that our lives go through seasons, and all three of us know that seasons change. All of us can sit here and say, within the last 5 years, what's something big happened? Maybe somebody got a new job. Maybe somebody died. Maybe somebody lost a job. Maybe somebody had a kid. Between the three of us, some ish has gone down just within 5 years.
What's your love language?
Guess.
Oh, I gotta guess this.
Well, first of all, let's tell, for people who may not know what the 5 love languages are, would you like to tell them what the 5 types are?
So let me see if I can get this right. Acts of kindness.
Yes.
Words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other 3?
What's
the other 3? Physical touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gifts.
And
Willie, help me out.
it is, did I say words of affirmation or quality time?
Quality time.
Quality time.
Okay.
So by the way, people, viewers and listeners, if you guys have taken this and you know your love language, if you have not taken it within the last 6 months, I challenge everybody to take it again. You might be surprised at how your language has changed. I'm talking about that fresh. If you have not done it within the last 6 months, take it again. You will be surprised. What's it going to show you is, have you grown in some areas? Are some areas still lacking? And then when you find out what your language is, really do the work, really do the due diligence to figure out, what does that look like? What does words of affirmation look like? Is it just you hearing people compliment you? Is it just you hearing people encourage you? Or are you the type that, in addition to hearing it, maybe you're a card reader, maybe you're a letter reader, maybe you need to have something in front of you, maybe your words isn't good enough if you hear it, but it's better if you read it. Like, we have to do the work, people. We have to go inside of ourselves and figure out what this means. My love language, to answer your question, actually tied. I just did this 30 days ago, which surprised me. It tied with gifts and physical touch. We had the same number this go round, and that hasn't happened. Like, I probably have taken this test 10 times in 5 years, and it's changed.
So I want to stay there for a sec because you had mentioned something. And I think we talking about to keep the relationship fresh. I think that's a lot. You know how many people go into relationships, but they don't even know what they want. They don't know what they like. So what they're doing is they're just settling because you don't know yourself. You don't know if you like letters. You don't know if you like flowers. You don't know if you like to just walk and talk. You don't literally, people don't know what they want. So you get into these relationships and you settle, or you fool yourself thinking, okay, this is what I want, or this is what I like, when deep down you figure out years later, like, wow, I've been settling all these years. I don't like that. I don't like that smell. I don't like that scent. So that's another thing. Like, that's very important. Like, knowing what you want, knowing who you are, knowing what you like.
Hey, I got a question for you, Willie. If, in fact, y'all both can answer it. You spoke earlier about dating in the 80s and 90s. You think people know how to date today in order to get what they want?
Oh, we talked about it. Listen, man, I think dating now is, in my opinion, at an all-time low, because everything is about getting that quick nut off. Everything is about
self.
Yep. Everything's about how many bodies I can catch, how quick I can get it. Like, yeah. So that's another reason when we talked about marriage. I think dating was the point of dating was to eventually evolve and get married, to build something.
Yes.
Now it's just like
dating,
you said,
just to date.
It's just to have something to do.
It's
free food and drinks,
outside.
baby.
I've seen people post, it's cuffing season, because it's like there's literally people that just get in relationships around a certain time just because I guess it fits that season. Like,
and they don't even be relationships. Let's call them what they are.
Situationships.
Yeah.
They situationships.
They don't be real. You know what I mean? Yeah, piggybacking on Will here. Dang, I forgot my train of thought that fast. But yeah, like he's right. Like the dating, when I was growing up, it was taboo for girls to have big numbers. If you got more than 5, they wilding out. Nowadays, my little brother, I have a younger brother. I got a couple of them, so I could put them on blast. But one of my younger brothers is, younger than I am, significantly younger than I am, like more than a decade. And he hit me up like, sis, I took this girl on a date, and she told me she slept with 23 dudes. What? How old is she, bro?
And you got to multiply by 3.
She was like 21, though. Let's just not even multiply and just take her basic number. 23
today too.
By the time you're 21. But the point, I was more so shocked on, forget her numbers. I'm like, you just giving this information out now?
Yeah.
And it doesn't scare the guys though. Like, y'all with it.
Price, my theory. I need to know. I'm sorry.
I ain't with it. No, absolutely not. Look, but I think me and you, Eric, are pretty much from the same generation, but
yeah,
it's like that 20s era. I mean, now if you're in your 20s, to be openly promiscuous like that is a thing. That's
and
a problem.
they like going, they going both ways. Like,
yeah, and I don't think that a lot of young ladies, and this isn't a dig at them, but just the biological consequences of just being out here like that.
This is exactly what I'm saying. Yep.
Yeah. But
Totally.
it's like, then you hear the whole, it's either one or the other. Because Chris Rock said something. He said relationships are easy if both people are working at it. But when you got one person working at it, then it's gonna be hard. And so a lot of relationships get stale over the years. Going back to what you said, Willie, it's like you find yourself because you didn't take the time to find yourself before you got in that relationship, and now you're just realizing the things that you don't like. But I'm gonna say this too: a lot of times when we get into relationships, we begin to, so when you first meet the person, you're only thinking about the things you like about that person because you don't really know them that well. But as the relationship progresses and you start seeing the other things about that person, then you start focusing on the things you don't like. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes you can do, because there's clearly things about both parties that you like and dislike. So how important is it to like not magnify your dislikes, but to emphasize the things that you actually like about a person over the course of time, and to keep that part fresh?
I mean, how important is it to just to fall in love with your decision and not worry about your decision falling in love with you, so to say? Almost like you're going to sit there and nitpick and tear this person down in front of you because you want to focus on the things about them that you don't like. What about you don't you like? Focus on you. Like, that's, if we always bring this whole conversation back to who's looking at your reflection in the mirror, there is where everything lies. It all starts and ends with you. If you're the type of person that's focused on somebody else's flaws, that has nothing to do with them. That's literally something that's going on with you.
Yeah, but that happens a lot. And as simple as it sounds simple, but I mean, I'm sure you know there's so many people that will do that and just focus on the things that they don't like about a person, and relationship can come to an end because of that level of selfishness.
But that's the
Yeah,
thing.
go ahead,
Like,
Willie.
we need to focus on the positive. Everyone has flaws. We all have flaws. Find me a flawless person. Like, find me a person without flaws. We all have flaws, but it's focus on the positives. Like, take time to focus on what you really love about that person. Flaws are going to be there. Like, they're going to be there. We all have shortcomings, but I think, I don't know if it goes with like early childhood trauma, but it's so easy for us to focus on the negative instead of looking at the positive. To me, like, to me, it's just, it seems so simple to me, but it's not. Like, just focus on the positives. Like,
I think it's simple for the people that get it,
right?
Which is why it's kind of hard for us to really verbalize his question, because you're trying to make us make sense out of something that doesn't make sense.
Because we all know we're not perfect. Like,
right, exactly.
Like, I know for a fact I get on my wife's nerves. I know this, but focus on, like I don't know, man. It's hard to, because it seems so simple to just tell people to just, there's going to be, it's things you don't like in your average life. Go outside of, just forget about a relationship. And life period is things that you don't like, but you'll find a way to focus on the positive. Why can't you translate that into your relationship?
You can, they just don't want to. And I think, and honestly, I'm at the point in my life where I'm done pacifying that. Like, you know how you were just like, oh, it's so easy to say it. Nah, it's easy to do it. You wanna know why? Because everything ends and begins with a decision. Everything. Everything.
So it might.
So how bad do you want it? So like, if these people are continuously stuck on this mindset of, you know, focus on this person's negative, like, that's going to get you nowhere. And I can't offer that mindset any advice, because you're choosing to be stuck there.
Well, the advice would be to choose positive, right? Because not just in our relationships, we we do that in almost every aspect of our lives, right? So it could be literally in your professional career. You could work with somebody that you don't like and you hate going in because that person is going to be there, and you allow it to affect your performance when you can literally choose to not focus on that person. You're shaking your head, but I mean, so many people do this because in their minds, that's how their minds have been trained to be. You
And
can,
so many people don't do it.
I don't even think it's
that's
training.
true.
Let's be honest. Listen, man, I don't even think it really has a lot to do with training. When people want a way out, that's when they start focusing on the negatives. Because now I have a reason. I want to, but now I can say you're toxic, you're this, you're that, you're overprotective because I need a way out. And it's so easy. Listen, most people, when they want a way out, they started focusing on the negative. When we first get together, because you said it, when you first get together, you're on cloud nine. You love everything about that person. But eventually that cloud nine wears off. And guess what? Now you actually have to work at this relationship. It's not, you're not on the honeymoon stage no more. And when you realize, okay, now I have to work at it, I'm not really trying to be here now. I ain't got time to do this. What do I not like about this person? Oh, you always got a question at the end. I don't like that. You toxic. That's what it is. When the cloud nine and the love and the honeymoon stage is over, that's
Right.
when real life hits, and everybody can't handle that. You think you can, because when you get to know somebody, they the best thing since sliced bread. They the best thing smoking. But when those few months are over, and now it's really time to lay the foundation to put the work in, because that person's not new no more. Their energy, their presence is no longer new. Now
Right.
I know you. I
We
know
talked
who
about
you
that.
are, and it's easy now. Now you realizing, okay, I really don't like you. It was just a new thing. I need a way out. You toxic. I don't like this. I'm bringing out all the negatives because it's over with now. The high is gone.
Well,
Well,
so I
and in
mean,
those cases, I feel like it was never real to begin with.
right, right. That's
If
what I
they
was gonna
showed
say.
up as a representative, they never showed up as who they were.
Yeah,
So
I
when,
mean,
I didn't validate your representative, then your ugly came out.
right. Yeah, and that's what I was saying before. Like when you start to see that other side, how easy is it for you to get focused on that? Like I always say, one of the things that we're never taught in school and a lot of times in life is human relations. And in this culture, American culture, we're literally programmed to think only of ourselves, damn near 100% of the time. So Willie, let's look at marriage counseling, right? And I think I told you I read that book where the guy was talking about half of all engagements don't even make it down the aisle, and then the people that do get married, half of them end in divorce. That's in this country, right? Um, when you talk about keeping things fresh, it's hard to see the picture when you inside the frame. So in your mind, or any other person's mind, 9 times out of 10, they don't see the ish that they're doing wrong. And that's the part that I'm referring to. It's like you might think that what you're doing is right, but it's really the burden on a relationship. And so this conversation tonight wasn't for the people that get it. It's for the people that don't see it. Because like you said, there are people that see it, but there's so many out there that don't. And so that was the whole point of tonight, on how can they get back to the point where they can keep their, because they might not realize there is another route that I can take. I've been focusing on the negative for so long. And a lot of times people come into relationships with that mindset. But again, like you said, they're acting. They got the game face on. But when they take the mask off, now you see the real ugly, but they can change. So it's like, what is that cycle, that process that they can get out of that rut and potentially have a great relationship with the significant other? Because look, most of the time when you talk about a failed relationship, is usually one person trying and the other person not.
And again, that goes back to like, you gotta have to be selfless in a relationship. You can't be selfish. You have to get to, first off, you have to know yourself, because it's a lot of time wasted, because like you said, you got the acting on. And once you do realize who you are, this is why I think it's very, very important to date before you get married. And I mean, like, I don't mean like just date and just couple dates, or no, like really date, get to know that person, like talk to them, like, and I don't mean just like
ask the hard question.
Yeah, like ask the question. Like I don't mean like just make it about physical. Like get to know who that person, like get to know who they are, know their history, know who they mother, know their background, know their family history, know what you're dealing with.
Grab that book, 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged. It's gonna be very hard questions in there that you never heard.
So here, I mean? But here the thing is about the book though, and I like to tell people that, right? Going off a book is, you just have to remember one thing. I'm not saying the book is wrong. Most people, when what's in that book is the questions that worked for him. That thing worked for him. So just because that worked for them, even now, like if anybody asks my wife and I about advice, I just say, hey, this is what worked for us. This is just what we're giving you. It may not work for you. So you still, I'm not saying the book is wrong, like, but you still have to know just that those questions may be questions that were relevant to him and maybe not to
he got those questions from being a pastor and a marriage counselor, and he formed those questions from all the couples he counseled. It wasn't questions he asked himself.
I don't think you're really gonna ask 100 questions though. Like, I don't know. I just gotta
not like, in one night. No, it's not. I think you taking it wrong. The purpose of the book is really to open up your mind on the things that we don't ask before entering into a serious relationship. So, hey, Erica, have you ever played 21 Questions?
Yeah.
What do you think about that game?
I love it. I do my own versions of the game. I think both of you guys are correct in your approaches to the conversation, i.e. the book. I have read that book before, and I've read other things similar to that. I've actually, I had cousins who went through marriage counseling, and I always am fascinated, and I'm like, let me see your stuff. You know, let me see what the questionnaire you guys had to ask. So there are things that, make the conversation really real. But at the same time, I feel what Will is saying as far as, maybe all of these questions aren't going to be relative to everyone, because as we all know, a lot of times people can have the gift of gab and they can answer any question that you put in front of them. But then when it comes in terms of action or being what you're talking about, they don't show up. So, you may have a hard question that says something like, about your finances, I don't know, have you ever had a bankruptcy, or what's your credit score, or, do you have a gambling problem, or what's your thought on the casino? And, this person can give you an answer because they know the type of person you are and what you want to hear. So I'm going to tell Erica, well, you know what, Erica, I've never had a bankruptcy, but there is a time when I didn't do this. I put this on my mind, whatever the hubbub story is, just to make me feel like, oh, okay, well, I guess this can be a pass, because I probably would have did the same too. And, I can understand how he can fall short on this bill because of X, Y, and Z. Meanwhile, he could be a whole con artist.
So it's kind of like when the teachers say, it's like a test. You may know the answer to the math question, but when it's time to show your work, it's a different story.
Right. So in that case, then what questions do you ask?
You ask the questions that are important to you, period. And that's going to be different from every single person, because here we go back, what we've been saying this entire podcast tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is it's all brings you back to self-introspection, self-reflection, self-growth, self-empowerment. It's all about self in the most positive aspects. My top 5 may be completely different than your top 5. You could care less about religion. You could care less about being freaky in the bedroom. Maybe all I care about is how well you manage your money. Maybe all I care about is pursuing an education. So whoever's listening, watching, recording, replaying, you have to figure out what matters to you, and then you stick on that street.
No, I get you,
So
but
those questions are they're gonna be different.
no, I get it. It is not so much the questions that you were saying that if the person isn't being honest with you, you know, what would I do?
I'm out. We simple. You can't
But
have
how,
any longevity in a cracked foundation.
but how would you know that just from asking the questions is what I'm asking.
You pay attention.
Yeah, because over time in the show, it'll come.
Absolutely,
like you said,
that's it.
Oh, okay, over time, but not in that moment is what you're saying.
No, but you pay attention. Like you pay attention, and then you ask more questions. Like if something seems too good or doesn't, ask more. You can go. We can. We didn't spend 30 minutes on this one question, so to say, because we broke it down and it took us to so many different avenues. So the same thing. Ask questions on top of questions about whatever it is that you want to ask, and then you just sit back and relax. You don't have to search and seek. What's in the dark is going to come to light. It's about whether or not we're choosing to pay attention to what we see.
Here's my final question. I feel like every man, every guy, every girl needs their guys' night out, needs their girls' night out, right? You need to be able to interact with the same sex on a level that's different than the way you interact with the opposite sex. What's your take on that? How important is it to be able to still maintain a social life in the midst of being in a committed relationship? And does that help keep the relationship fresh as well?
That's for me.
That's for you.
Again, and I'm sorry if this sounds redundant, but you have to do whatever you need to do to make sure that the essence of who you are still remains true. And yes, things have to be tailored when you enter into a relationship, especially when you enter into a marriage, right? However, your friends may kind of take a back seat they will take a back seat to your wife and your family. And then maybe you realize you have to go back to reinventing that relationship. You'll have to, and if they're your friends, they'll understand. If they're your friends, they'll understand that you can't connect with them like you did every Saturday. But I'm a damn sure be there for your birthday. I'm a damn sure be there, when you are gonna go take, I don't know, your firefighter's test or something, or, the death of your mother. Like I'm gonna show up when it matters. But I believe that really still focusing on you is important. So for example, if I had to choose, if I'm married and I got these kids and I don't have a lot of time for myself and I have to choose between hanging out with my homegirls at 6 o'clock or hanging out with myself doing something that I need to regroup, to refresh because I wear so many hats, guess what I'm gonna choose? Me. And my friend is gonna understand that. And we're just gonna have to rework our relationship and come up with some other way to reconnect.
Well, there it is. The lovely Erica Nichole. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Willie, can you close us out, brother?
Yes. First off, thank you for coming on with us. We definitely want to have you on again. This was a great discussion.
I hope so. Yes.
I enjoyed this.
And let me bring some backup with me next time.
Okay.
And I would bring a guy. I'd bring a guy.
Okay. We can do that. Because this was conversation that's definitely needed. Tell the people how can they reach you first off. Like, give us like.
What's up, my beautiful people? You guys can find me on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram as I am Nichole, ENIC. Don't forget my HOLE. Facebook, Erica Nichole, ERICANICHOLE. And please go check out my website, enichole.com. It's out, it's ready, it's fun. Subscribe, send me some information, put your name in your newsletter, your email address on there. Show support, I'll show support. It's all love. You're welcome, fellas.
All right. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok at the Black Culture Podcast. I am the Willie Ashford. That I almost called myself Price. That's crazy. I'm used to you saying it first. That is Price. That is Erica Nichole. Thank you again. Thank you so much for coming on with us. We're definitely gonna have her back on. We are the Black Culture Podcast. Peace.
Peace.